Guys, what's shaking? Today I want to talk to y'all about a little friend of mine. Well, good friend of mine? How close are we? Well, not like that. Well, sometimes. Depends on how much money I got. Anyways, I wanted to talk to you guys about a gal named Lydia. Nice little girl of her. She's got a plethora of nicknames. Let me just open the pages here. There's the lovely Lydia, the luscious Lydia, Gazelicious, the golden gazelle, the golden gazelle goddess, the goddess gazelle. She has like 500 nicknames, and she openly calls herself at least 20 of them. Also Liddy, but she is quite interesting, a little mysterious, at least to me. I'm not what you would consider one of her, like, I'm not a part of her inner circle, but we are relatively positive with one another. It's just that we have our moments of discussion every now and again. She doesn't tell me everything, but to be fair, I don't really ask. It's more along the lines of, you know how you occasionally confide in a stranger? It's like that, but, just kind of like when we choose to powwow, I guess. We'll grab a few drinks, we'll chill, she'll give me a dance, I'll give her my attention, and in between those times, or sometimes when we're just out and about, we just kick it. And sometimes we even spar together. But it's moments in between where we just kind of let the little mask slip, so to speak, between us, and we just, talk normal. And I've asked her a few times here and there about her life because she always seemed so large. And no, I'm not talking about her tits. I mean, like, specifically, like, she has this personality that feels larger than life. Like, she walks around like a celebrity, despite the fact that she isn't. Which, I mean, we've all met people like that before. Like, people who are on social media, who have a good chunk of followers, but aren't famous. The ones that go around flashing themselves, being like, oh, ooh, hoo, 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 hoo. Like, like, they think they're hot shit when they're not. And I guess you could kind of say she falls under that to an extent, but not quite there. We actually have a bit more in common than I thought we did, well, at least when I first met her. To be fair, all that gold is a bit much for me, but I was always more of a silver guy. But where am I going? Well, let's talk a bit about her, at least what she was willing to tell me in regards to her life before she became, well, her. Because I know a bit more about after the fact because I had to help her deal with a certain friend of hers, on again, off again playmate, whatever you want to call them. And yeah, I learned more about that part, but in regards to her backstory, it was a bit fuzzy for me. Some of it I had to put together myself, other stuff she just straight up told me. For instance, she actually has a much better with her relationship. I said that wrong. She has a much better relationship to her mother than I did to mine. Her mother was a woman named Yolanda. Not quite sure where she was from, but Lydia had stayed with her until about the age of 8. She passed. Some kind of a disease. She didn't know what it was, she just knew that it killed her, so could have been anything. Could have no one really knows. Well, I guess the doctors do, but it's not like they were keen to tell her on it. And after that, she had jumped around foster families for a while, going in and out of the system, and she didn't have the best parents at times, and some of them were, I'm gonna be honest, the way she described them, real pieces of work. I would like to meet them in this day and age and probably, just course correct their jaw a little bit, but yeah, the past is the past, and I can't get mad on someone else's behalf. Plus, she would do it before I would, if we're all being 100% honest. But yeah, she used to get in a lot of fights growing up too because she was in the school system, but she was bullied for being, well, I guess technically an orphan, and then also she was poor. She wasn't. It's not like, again, it's real rare that an orphan gets sent to like a witchy witch kind of family. It just doesn't happen. Typically, you get sent around to people, to someone in your environment willing to adopt you, and they're not all going to be well off. But, you know, some of them weren't good. Some of them were, but like I said, she was very closed off to them. She was a delinquent, and she liked to scrap. That was her answer to most things. Eventually, though, the older she got, they were just like, okay, yeah, she's old enough to go to juvie. If y'all don't want that, you're going to have to send her somewhere willing to accept her. And one day, one of the families she was with happened to get her into a boarding school. It's called Delta Academy. Simple little place, really, but it, it had her for a while. She started staying over there. And same thing, she formed her own little clique, her own little group of delinquents, troublemakers. They weren't the teacher's pets. But she had started growing into her looks by then, so with her attitude and her, I guess you could say, confidence, she kind of got her own little fan base. She was actually quite popular in school. Not with any of the staff, mind you, but the other students. You see the pretty blonde girl walk by with the badass attitude that's not afraid to knock someone on their ass. That's gonna turn some heads. And the funny thing was, she eventually made friends with a lady called Demi. It was brief, but they actually got along in the sense that they both had a bit of a passion for fighting. And Lydia had eventually learned that Demi was training at this little dojo. And so Lydia thought, hey, if she's going to do that, maybe I should look into that. But she never told her. Because at a certain point, she found out that Demi had come from a rich family. And she didn't like that. She was always bullied for being poor, so she really had to stick up her ass when it came to rich folks. As far as she was concerned, they were all the same in her eyes, and she hated all of them. So yeah, she turned on Demi, and she bullied that girl religiously. But like I said, this is from her perspective. She wants to make it seem like she was just getting some form of payback because of how she was treated. I say it ain't exactly fair to judge somebody from their background, especially if they weren't the meanest people to you. Because from what it sounds like, they got along fairly well. I just couldn't tell you where it slipped off. I mean, hell, if she had learned to be a bit more tolerant, or heavens forbid, Demi was from you know, a middle class family, or a slightly less wealthy one, I guess. Could they have been friends? More than likely. They probably would have been, closer than her and Lottie are. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So, like I said, she found the dojo that Demi had went to. She went during the day, Lydia went during the night because they had different classes and different teachers. And also because, Lydia had to keep staying after school, detention, catch up on work, so to speak. Like, again, she wasn't the best student, but she wasn't an idiot. She could knock out the work, even if she didn't take it seriously while she was at school. Again, she didn't really want to go to juvie at that point, so she tried to, for the most part, keep everything relatively out of the public eye. Except for her dislike of Demi. Because when Lydia was in the dojo, she saw it as a means to, not just improve herself, but like a source of power, a source of control. Being able to actively whoop someone's ass for talking shit to you and do it effectively and put some fear in them afterwards, she craved that. She wanted to hurt people just because of how they treated her. But at the same time, she found it as a nice little outlet for herself. She liked learning and improving on her abilities. It's actually where she started becoming a kicker because she had a lot more power in her legs. So she started focusing on that. And it was funny though, because it was a wushu martial arts dojo, but they also taught her kung fu. And the funny thing was, they went throughout most of the school year and they had became the top students of the dojo. Lydia during the night, Demi during the day. The thing was, though, because Lydia kept bullying Demi, sometimes it would be physical, like, slapping books out of her hands, mocking her, or even going so far as to push her. But Lydia wasn't going to attack any of the girls at her school, or even some of the boys, because in her eyes, they were worthless because they couldn't throw a proper punch. They would pull hair, pull clothes, slap each other, bite, like, very juvenile stuff. So Lydia, with her newfound, I guess, confidence booster, thought it was beneath her. Demi was a bit more passive, so she wasn't going to fight nobody if she didn't have to. So it eventually, closer to the end of the school year, Lydia had found out that Demi was, well, the other top student in the class. And when she found that out, she harassed that girl a lot. Like, she was trying to push her for a fight to prove that she was the best. Because Lydia and Demi had both won against other people in their class. That's why they were the top students. But obviously, the top student of the day and the top student of the night would have to come against each other to find out who would be the best of the school entirely, the best of the dojo entirely. But Demi didn't want to fight. And Lydia kept pushing for it, but obviously she couldn't do it on school grounds. So one day, close to the end of the graduation, when they were going to, she caught her on the tennis court. It was raining that day, so the team had went inside to play in the gym. But she had forgotten something. So at that point, Lydia cornered her and tried to provoke her into a fight again. When it was clear that Lydia wasn't going to let her leave, Demi tried to defend herself. And during the fight, Lydia kept taunting her, goading her, trying to get her to go all out. And eventually, Demi she snapped. She got mad, and she went off on her. But the difference was, while they were both really skilled in fighting the same style, Lydia did this shit religiously. Like, real religious. She got some good hits off on her, but Lydia ultimately overcame her. And during her fight, she hit her. She hit her real hard. Harder than she had meant to. And Demi was laid out on the floor, like she wasn't moving. And she thought the life had drained from her eyes. She thought she just straight up broke the girl's neck. And she panicked and ran off. Obviously, when the school found out, Lydia got expelled, but by that point, she was already long gone. Because she thought, she was going to get arrested for murder. What Lydia had told me afterwards was that she had spent some time wandering after that. She was essentially homeless, so she was scrounging for money and doing odd jobs here and there, car washes, working as like a waitress here and there. Like, she did everything she could besides sell her body to get some money. And eventually, she came across a guy in a echidna named Kenny or Quinny. I don't know how he pronounces it. They, whatever. So they eventually meet up, and it was a weird encounter from what she said. She had ran into him while he was shaking someone down for money. I guess the guy owed him something, and Quinny was about to get jumped, so she kicked the guy upside the head who was sneaking up on him, and Quinny got his money afterwards, and also beat the guy into the floor for trying to like get one over on them. And Quinny was, well, they were pretty grateful. So they kind of just started talking, found out Lydia didn't have a spot to stay, so Quinny let her crash on his couch. And seeing how she could handle herself, Quinny was like, "Hey, if you want to make some money while you're here with me and, contribute, I got some jobs I gotta do. You are more than welcome to help me if you want to earn your keep and stay here." Because Lydia isn't exactly housewife material. She don't cook, she don't clean. Yeah, she started like running jobs with him, collecting money from people, dropping off packages here and there, and if need be, putting boot to ass to get her point across. They ran together for a while. They became really good friends. And when it came to Quinny, they were very. I'm not gonna say they rejected her advances because she didn't make any towards them, but I think they kind of looked at it like in a sense, a small brother sister dynamic. That or she just wasn't their type. I don't know. But eventually, funny thing, she had ran into somebody that she did have a slight, well, I'm not gonna say fondness, but maybe a bit, a connection of sorts too. She ran into this dude named Lucas, flashy motherfucker. But for one reason or another, she was interested in him. So they got to talking. And while she was kind of closed off at first, she softened up after a while, opened herself up to him. Not like that. Well, actually, that's a lie. Maybe like that. I mean, they grown folks. I'm pretty sure they were doing the little hush smush on the side. Anywho, they eventually, well, the way she words it was that they drifted apart after a while. Lydia was so engrossed in her work that she stopped making time for him, or she made so little time for him, he kind of just, you know, broke it off. But he had taught her something. She said that he taught her, I guess, how to love or how to be loved, which was something she wasn't used to. So, one of the last gifts he ever gave her was this bright pink puffy jacket that she just keeps with her. She doesn't even bother getting rid of it. If it gets scratched up or torn, she just has it fixed up, doesn't replace it. And same thing, if it starts losing its like fluffiness at certain points, she'll just replace it and get new parts for it and just keep it going. Guess he left a really good impression on her. But after a while, I guess the criminal roots came back to both of them because they were both just doing their own thing afterwards. Her and Quinny were still doing jobs. He had formed a group, or they had formed a group with more echidna. So they basically had their own little gang afterwards. And Lydia was actually making a little bit more money here and there. So when she wasn't paying rent, she was buying like gold and things like that, jewelry. And the funny thing is, she still doesn't like rich people, but she might as well like she wanted to like feel like them to an extent. Like she wanted stuff that she never had access to growing up. So she started getting gold here and there, making herself look flashier. She even started running her own social media accounts. And one day, during a job, she had ended up going with Quinny to Sweet Madness Club, home of the twins. But this was when they first started, forming the place, so wasn't necessarily as much of an eye opener as it was nowadays. Like they were still working on the second floor from when she got there, apparently, and it took months for them to finish it afterwards. But apparently, she had gotten into it one day because I guess because of her looks, one of the drunks at the club got a little handsy because they mistook her for one of the dancers. And she promptly kicked the dude's head off and sent him to essentially the stratosphere. So while he was picking his teeth up off the floor once he woke up, she had to deal with his friends, and Gwenny was there too. And if you honestly ask me, the way they were moving and the way she is, she probably would have tried to fight every person in that club. She would have lost after a while. So they could have gotten overrun, but she would have definitely tried. But that caught the attention of the owners, which typically you would never want the twins' attention. But they looked her over and they thought, okay, I think we could work with this. I'm paraphrasing what she told me they said, by the way. Like I said, I wasn't there for the conversation. But basically, they gave her an ultimatum because they don't want her attacking their clients like that. So they're like, you're young, you're good looking. How about you work for us? We'll pay you more than what you're doing right now. We'll let your friend here come in and out as he pleases, and we won't break your legs. Because again, at that point, they hadn't done enough jobs for them to be considered useful. And also, it's not like they were clientele of any kind. They don't pay for dances or drinks here. So, yeah, they basically just said if you don't want to get hurt, you're going to follow us. And you'll make some good money out of it. So Lydia reluctantly joined. And she ironically found that she had a knack for the thing. She was already in good shape because of her training, and so her maneuverability on the pole caught a lot of attention, especially with her very aggressive, very open, and flashy personality. She quickly became a fan favorite there. The luscious Lydia, the lovely gazelle, the golden goddess. Like, people were flocking to her after a while. And again, she had a thing for the limelight. She liked being the center of attention. She was good at it. And she decided, you know what? I'm going to use these rich people to get as much money as possible. That way, I can use it for whatever I want, and I can help out my friends here and there. So, she started like mingling with some of the clientele here and there. And the funny thing was, especially with her social media status, she started getting sponsors, brand deals, promotions from like actual people that like she was a part of the Echidna brand. She had clothing deals, she had perfumes, and so on and so forth. Because outside of her working at the club, she was constantly training, and she would even do like I guess unsanctioned underground street fights. She occasionally would take breaks to do actual tournaments too, like legit ones, and she even won a few awards off of it. So, like I said, the more she got her name out, the more people came to sponsor her, the more money she started making. And because she was still living with Quinny at the time, she gave them a good chunk of change here and there. She she knew the same people he did, so she'd give him some something to smoke, she'd give him something to drink, she'd give him some weapons if need be. But eventually she moved out, got her own little apartment, and then touched it up with her little pizzazz. And during her time working at the Sweet Madness, she made the friends with the dancers there, and even some of the wait staff and the bouncers. Because again, she's a very social gal, so she's good at that. And I remember her and Lottie, when they first met, Lottie was dealing with some drunk customers that wouldn't go away, and Lydia promptly escorted them out the door, face first. So they became friends after that. Although I do find it funny because apparently her and Lottie's girlfriend don't get along very well. But that's neither here nor there. That's a side story. I'll tell you about it later. And then she essentially worked for a couple of mob sisters, ran with the gang, did martial arts, and just started trying to live the high life. She even drives this like fancy pink Bentley. But the funny thing is, though, she actually goes to like when she has free time. She actually hits up like local events, like neighborhood barbecues, block parties, picnic, or not picnics. What are they called? Like social gatherings, I guess, between like large groups of people. Obviously, she wears more clothes than this, but when she goes through, she'll talk to some of the some of the little girls there, and try to give them like some entrepreneurial advice. She tries to help out here and there too. She'll donate some money to charities. She'll hit up the like those little I think it's like a girl shelter. She'll deliver them some clothes, some old stuff she doesn't wear anymore. Because she tries not to wear the same thing twice. Outside of her actual jacket, she tries to wear different things all the time, and she gets a lot of clothes from brand deals too. So outside, like whatever she has in that walk-in closet is always getting cycled out. So again, the people she does give her clothes to, they gonna look good wearing them, even if they're not clothes of that year. It's like you could say, "Oh, that's so last year." Yeah, but still like sponsored, still a good brand. You know, this shirt will run you $200 on most days. I got it for free. And when she's not, doing all that, she's traveling. She likes exploring a lot, so she has like little travel vlogs she'll do. She'll hit up new places here and there. If she doesn't go with Lottie, she'll go with Sister. She'll go with like any of her friends. She doesn't really go with Quinny because Quinny kind of does their own thing. So they meet up every now and again to do some dirt. But outside of that, which she doesn't have to do anymore. But I think it's so she doesn't like the idea of getting rusty, or she doesn't want anyone to think she's going soft. She values her reputation, which is kind of what led her to another person I'll talk about later. Let's just say me and him have a history as well, and it's not a good one. But the problem with her and being a fighter is she does get kind of confrontational with people, especially at the club. People get handsy, they downplay her a little bit, or sometimes they straight up just try to demean her in some way, shape, or form. She's proud of what she does. She doesn't actually care that she's a dancer. You could say, "Oh, well, you're like this. Oh, you're such a slut." Da da da. It's like she doesn't care because she does what she does and she's good at it. Plus, she's learned to clap back fast at people. Like you can make fun of her for being a good dancer, but she'll be real quick to remind you which one of your parents is over there tipping her on those nights. But there is one guy that I still can't really tell what they are because she started learning from him. Because he's a dangerous man. People fear him, people respect him. And she craved it. She wanted that kind of influence. Because everyone that respects her because they're either friends with her or because she had to put hands on them before. He doesn't necessarily have to do that, which is why she was trying to get some kind of tutelage under him. Because she heard he was a really good fighter. And he said no. He straight up just told her no. And she's not used to being told no from people, so she didn't like that. And she pursued him further. They got into a fight. She didn't win, but she managed to, I guess, leave enough of an impression on him that he would hear her out. And because of her, like, well of money that she has at the moment, she paid him off for some lessons. And that went on for a while, till it didn't. At one point, he decided he wasn't going to train her. And that hurt her ego. So she wanted to fight him. She says it's her pride, but let's be real, guys. It's her ego. So she wanted to fight him. She actually came to multiple people to train her so she could find out his weaknesses, his motivations, his style, everything that could give her any kind of an advantage on this man. She came to me. And in private, we talked about it. I trained her a bit more on my ways of the wind, my style. And she can't exactly do what I can do, but it did help her find a new way of interacting with people in a fight. It helped loosen her up, so to speak. And she went at him. I had hoped that, she would at least get out if things got too crazy, but that girl's stubborn. Luckily, she survived, but that was a touch and go situation for a while. I had actually helped keep watch over her while she was recovering because the I know that guy. He's not the type to just let shit go. But luckily, I guess they had found some kind of common ground between them because they squashed it afterwards. They even got a little bit more involved, but that's none of my business. Lydia is one in a million. And if you ever told me who I'd rather have watching my back in a fight, I mean, I'd probably pick Boo first and foremost. But if I wanted someone to just help me with some good old fashioned head stomping, she'd definitely be up there.